I slumped into the chair. It even seemed to me that I had grown into it under the withering gaze of Adelaide Semianova.
Why are you silent, Ivan?
The hostess grinned.
And how do you explain to yourself the relief of your condition after mud therapy? After all, you've been smeared with silt from the shores of the dark lake. You are used to painkillers. You already wanted to go to hospice so that your last days would pass under morphine mist. And there's some dirt here.
I was silent. Adelaide Semianova sighed and continued.
Well, we digress. I'm sorry. So, I promise you recovery. But on one condition. As you have probably already noticed, the territory of our sanatorium is fenced. In this fenced area, you can move around without restrictions, walking in the woods, chatting with each other, playing sports games. We have a beautiful stadium, and the next building is a gym. But it is strictly forbidden to go beyond the fence without the permission of the assistant. In the next room, there is a shop, where you can buy everything you need. If you don't have it, you will order it to the seller. The next day they will bring you what you ordered. But, as I said, it is strictly forbidden to go beyond the fence. Moreover, it is strictly forbidden to visit the dark lake on your own. It's life-threatening. I'm not exaggerating. It is also forbidden to enter the service premises. This is also dangerous for you. And if you want to get results from the treatment, you must strictly follow the rules. Otherwise, treatment will not help.
Adelaide Semianova looked at us. I noticed that I couldn't tell her age, whether she was 40 or 60. Even her gray hair didn't help. I entered the room completely exhausted. On the one hand, I no longer liked the idea, because I subscribed to anything but mysticism, which enveloped the entire space here. On the other hand, I wanted to live more and more. After the mud therapy, I felt as cheerful as I once did when I was healthy. I was ready to move mountains. I was ready to buy back my car service and work at a triple pace. Now, apparently, the effect of the therapeutic mud was coming to naught and I was tired again. His stomach swelled again. His legs swelled. His stomach caught fire. Nausea rose to his throat, and his body was again pierced by 1,000 knives. I was waiting for Lena and Lisa, who were taken to the lake for the first time today. I wanted to know what kind of procedures they were. What was the great secret? Swimming, as I have already learned, took place strictly at sunset, once a day. The first bath took place on the third day of the stay. It was necessary to return behind the fence before nightfall. Some strange rules. It's like a ritual. Wheelchair wheels rattled down the hall. It was the neighbor Irina who was taking her paralyzed brother to the room. They had been here for a week, and by the time they arrived, Irina's brother, who was completely immobilized, was already in full control of his hands. Isn't it a miracle? If Lisa's voice erupts after the treatment, it will also be a miracle. If I stay alive, it will be a miracle. The door slammed. Irina brought her brother, and now muffled footsteps were heard in the hallway. But I, standing at the window, paid no attention to them, because I was carried away by an absolutely amazing sight. In the distance, beyond the edge of the forest, where the mountain ranges began, was the dark lake. I knew this from the stories of visitors to the sanatorium. The sanatorium itself was located on a low hill, so the view of the mountains and the location of the dark lake was quite visible. But the lake itself was not visible. It was reliably hidden by centuries-old pines. Nevertheless, the glow was clearly visible, which rose brighter and higher above the crowns of the trees with each passing minute, trembling, flickering, bluish in color. It was a cluster of many small lights chaotically darting over the waters of the dark lake. They resembled children frolicking, as if they were alive. Every minute there were more and more of them, and now it was no longer possible to distinguish that they were separate lights. They turned into a single flickering mass, illuminating everything around with a bluish glow. I was fascinated by the strange light show when Elena called out to me.
Ivan, are you witnessing the end of the world?
I turned around and smiled stiffly. Aha, what is this? Elena shrugged.
They don't tell us. Adelaide Semianova briefly mentioned that it was the spirits of the dark lake frolicking, and that we don't have to think. We have to follow the rules.
Where's Lisa?
Fell asleep. She was frightened after the bathing procedure. How do you feel?
Come on, I suggested. I don't want to spend the rest of my life in thrall etiquette. Lena grinned.
You don't believe you'll be cured?
How about you? Lena said nothing. She sat down in a chair and threw one leg over the other. How was the procedure performed? I asked.
I don't know. They didn't let me in. Roman, our assistant, took Lisa and told me to wait on the bench, not even letting me go beyond the fence. And Lisa couldn't tell anything for obvious reasons, but she was clearly scared and shocked. When we returned to the room, she immediately fell asleep. Tomorrow, you will have to experience everything for yourself, so to speak. You ready?
Lena smiled. I chuckled and scratched the back of my head. How do you say? I was ready for anything but the mystical component. I definitely don't like the fact that there are some spirits running like a red line here. Lena lowered her eyes.
I don't like it myself, but I too much want Lisa to be a normal child, so I try not to think about methods. The result is important to me.
You can't make an omelet without breaking eggs? I grinned.
For me as a mother, yes, justifies.
Lena left when it was past midnight. We talked for a long time about everything in the world, and every minute I liked this woman more and more. I wanted to live. I would have liked to have reacquainted myself with her under different circumstances, in a different place and in a different state, but I understood that it was precisely the circumstances that had been given to us that had brought us together here. I woke up when Natalia brought me breakfast, which did not go down my throat.
I understand that it is difficult for you. Let's go to the mud therapy room, and then eat. You'll feel better right away,
Natalia assured, looking at the exhausted me. I didn't want to wake up. With each passing day, I felt the thread of life unraveling, flowing out of me, and it was unsettling. Will I make it in time? Mud therapy, strange as it may seem, made me a man again, as it did yesterday. I already knew that this kind of exercise lasts for about 14 to 15 hours, which means that during this time you need to find out as much as possible from visitors what they know about the treatment, about the lake and about everything. The first thing I decided to do was to ask Natalia. When I asked what the effectiveness of hydrotherapy is based on, she became very serious.
Why do you need the details? I don't like your curiosity, and Adelaide Stepanova obviously won't like it. Do you want to live?
I nodded.
Then don't get into your head. Trust me, you don't have to.
While I was feeling good, I decided to take a walk in the woods and take another look around. As I have already said, the sanatorium itself was a two-story log cottage, on the ground floor of which there were staff offices, a hall, a shop and mud therapy rooms, and the entire second floor was given over to rooms for visitors, of which there were about 30 people. But the cottage was not the only building located on the territory of the sanatorium. Another large building, as I already understood, was a gymnasium, quite modern, with exercise equipment and even a small pool. It interested me, but not as much as the other. A small house, built in the same style as the main building, stood a little further away, hidden from visitors by dense trimmed bushes. At the edge of the path leading to it was a sign with a large inscription. Office. Visitors are strictly forbidden. From time to time, employees came in, stayed there for about half an hour and still came out empty-handed. Sometimes a tall, bulky man would dive in, carrying a live chicken in his hands. The chicken coop, by the way, was located far from the cottage, closer to the exit. I remember how we drove past it. I still don't understand why they keep it, because yesterday I noticed that the truck with the products brings both ready-made trays of chicken and eggs in industrial cells. What's the point of chickens if you don't use them for food? I was interested in the purpose of this house, and after making sure that no one was paying attention to me, I decided to come closer. Just before that, a man brought a chicken there and came out without it. I crept closer, trying to follow the trees so as not to be conspicuous, and hid behind one of the bushes. I looked around. There wasn't a soul around. It was only possible to get inside from the main entrance, but I would definitely be noticed. So, you can try to look through the window. I carefully parted the branches of the shrub and crept inside, just in time for the window that was closest to me, hidden in the green lilac thickets. After one more look around, I straightened up and peered cautiously out the window. Unfortunately, it was difficult to see what was going on inside through the glass, but the open door in ventilation mode allowed me to hear a mournful chant coming from inside, similar to a prayer. The windows smelled of burnt wax, a house of worship, but for what denomination? The building does not look like a Christian church or a mosque. I wasn't good at religion, so I was quick to reassure myself that maybe the staff members were of some minor religion, such as the Baptist religion or Jehovah's Witnesses. Who cares? But suddenly I heard the heart-rending cry of a bird that had recently been brought into the building by a worker, and my nose caught the smell of blood. Sacrifice flashed through my mind, and fortunately I thought to quickly retreat from there. Phew, it seems to have passed and no one noticed me. It's strange, because I'm not the only one who is so curious. Didn't anyone before me try to find out what they were doing in this house? Although, there was a sign. Everyone knew that it was forbidden to break the rules here. So, apparently, no one approached the house before me. An unpleasant picture began to form in my head. It turns out that the sanatorium was founded by some sectarians who believe in the spirits of the dark lake. They pray to them, make sacrifices, but wait, swimming in the waters of the lake really works, and it seems that everyone who went here is alive and well. No one was killed. On the contrary, they were cured. How was it cured? Whereby? Scientists all over the world are struggling with a cure for cancer, and here I dived for 3 weeks and is healthy. And this glow is strange, and Adelaide's Semianova is not like that either. She gives me goosebumps, a grown man. Okay, we need to go swimming today, see what's what, and then draw conclusions. The sky turned crimson when Natalia came into my room. Today, her hair was tied high, making her slender neck look as long as a goose's.
Are you ready?
She said with the same smile on her face.
Today is your first procedure. Don't be alarmed. I'll be there. If you listen to me, everything will go well.
Are there any difficulties in entering the lake, taking a dip and getting out? The effect of the therapeutic mud was wearing off and I was feeling weak again. Probably. Lena and Lisa have already been taken away and I will meet them.
Just listen to me.
Natalia changed again. She said these words through her teeth, glaring at me with a withering look. She clearly didn't like my attempts to get me to do something I wasn't supposed to know. I don't mind, I obey. It seems that so far I have not noticed any violations of the rules.
I'm not sure about that.
Natalia said sternly.
You're thinking too much. It's bad for you, especially here. Just trust us and do as you are told.
I decided to remain silent, getting out of bed with difficulty. I followed Natalia. We walked down the path towards the thicket of the forest, reached the fence, where there was a bench with Lena sitting on it near the barrier. Lena was bored. She perked up a little when she saw me, smiled and waved her hand. I waved back to her, but I didn't stop, especially since Natalia was walking quite fast and I could hardly keep up with her. Then we followed a narrow, winding path that led us down to the foot of the hill, deep into the forest. Centuries-old pines here were periodically replaced by dense oaks and birches, the foliage of which was painted in crimson tones by the descending sunset. I don't know how long we walked, but at last the forest parted and the dark lake stretched out before me. It rested in the lowlands, between the rocks, small, absolutely smooth, and really dark. Maybe that's how it seems. The other shore of the lake began immediately with steep cliffs turning into mountains. The view, of course, is fascinating, but at the same time frightening. A gentle staircase carved out of the rocks led down to the lake, along which a frightened Lisa and her assistant were climbing at that moment. As soon as the girl and her guide disappeared behind the trees, I looked at Natalia. Her eyes flashed at me.
Go down and strip down to your underpants. I'll follow you and give instructions from the shore. And no magic tricks. Otherwise, you may not get out of the lake. Spirits don't like overly curious patients.